넘어서도 And it came to pass that he believed in my words. But behold, Laman and Lemuel would not hearken unto my words. And being grieved because of the hardness of their hearts, I cried unto the Lord for them. And it came to pass that the Lord spake unto me, saying, Blessed art thou, Nephi, because of thy faith, for thou hast sought me diligently, with lowliness of heart. And inasmuch as ye shall keep my commandments, ye shall prosper, and shall be led to a land of promise. Ye, even a land which I have prepared for you, ye a land which is choice above all other lands. And inasmuch as thy brethren shall rebel against thee, they shall be cut off from the presence of the Lord. And inasmuch as thou shalt keep my commandments, thou shalt be made a ruler and a teacher over thy brethren. brethren. For behold, in that they shall rebel against me, I will curse them even with the sword curse, and they shall have no power over thy seed, except they shall rebel against me also. And if it so be that they rebel against me, they shall be a scourge unto thy seed, to stir them up in the ways of remembrance. And it came to pass that I, Nephi, returned from speaking with the Lord to the tent of my father. And it came to pass that he spake unto me, saying, Behold, I have dreamt a dream, in the which the Lord hath commanded me that thou and thy brethren shall return to Jerusalem. For behold, Laban hath the record of the Jews, and also a genealogy of my forefathers, and they are engraven upon plates of brass. Wherefore the Lord hath commanded me that thou and thy brothers should go unto the house of Laban, and seek the records, and bring them down hither into the wilderness. And now, behold, thy brothers murmur, saying, It is a hard thing which I have required of them. But behold, I have not required it of them, but it is a commandment of the Lord. Therefore go, my son, and thou shalt be favored of the Lord, because thou hast not murmured. And it came to pass that I, Nephi, said unto my father, I will go and do the things which the Lord hath commanded. For I know that the Lord giveth no commandments unto the children of men, save he shall prepare a way for them, that they may accomplish the thing which he hath commanded them. And it came to pass that when my father hath heard these words, he was exceeding glad, for he knew that I had been blessed of the Lord. And I, Nephi, and my brethren, took our journey in the wilderness with our tents to go up to the land of Jerusalem. And it came to pass that when we had come up to the land of Jerusalem, I and my brethren did consult one with another, and we cast lots which of us should go in unto the house of Laban. And it came to pass that the lot fell upon Laman, and Laman went in unto the house of Laban, and he talked with him as he sat in his house. And he desired of Laban the records which were engraven upon the plates of brass, which contained the genealogy of my father. And behold, it came to pass that Laban was angry, and thrust him out from his presence, and he would not that he should have the records. Wherefore he said unto him, Behold, thou art a robber, and I will slay thee. But Laman fled out of his presence, and told the things which Laban had done unto us. And we began to be exceeding sorrowful, and my brethren were about to return unto my father in the wilderness. But behold, I said unto them, that as the Lord liveth, and as we live, we will not go down unto our father in the wilderness, until we have accomplished the thing which the Lord hath commanded us. Wherefore let us be faithful in keeping the commandments of the Lord. Therefore let us go down to the land of our father's inheritance. For behold, he left gold and silver, and all manner of riches. And all this he hath done because of the commandments of the Lord. For he, knowing that Jerusalem must be destroyed, because of the wickedness of the people. For behold, they have rejected the words of the prophets. Wherefore if my father should dwell in the land after that he hath been commanded to flee out of the land, behold, he would also perish. Wherefore it must needs be that he flee out of the land. And behold, it is wisdom in God that we should obtain these records, that we might preserve unto our children the language of our fathers, and also that we may preserve unto them the words which have been spoken by the mouth of all the holy prophets, which have been delivered unto them by the Spirit and power of God, since the world began, even down unto this present time. And it came to pass that after this manner of language did I persuade my brethren, that they might be faithful in keeping the commandments of God. And it came to pass that we went down to the land of our inheritance, and we did gather together our gold and our silver and our precious things. And after that we had gathered these things together, we went up again unto the house of Laban. And it came to pass that we went in unto Laban, and desired him that he would give unto us the records which were engraven upon the plates of brass, for which we would give unto him our gold and our silver, and all our precious things. And it came to pass that when Laban saw our property, and that it was exceeding great, he did lust after it, insomuch that he thrust us out, and sent his servants to slay us, that he might obtain our property. And it came to pass that we did flee before the servants of Laban, and we were obliged to leave behind our property, and it fell into the hands of Laban. And it came to pass that we fled into the wilderness, and the servants of Laban did not overtake us, and we hid ourselves in the cavity of a rock. And it came to pass that Laman was angry with me, and also with my father, and also was Lemuel, for he hearkened unto the words of Laman. Wherefore Laman and Lemuel did speak many hard words unto us, their younger brothers, and they did smite us even with a rod. And it came to pass as they smote us with a rod, behold, an angel of the Lord came and stood before them, and he spake unto them, saying, Why do ye smite your younger brother with a rod? Know ye not that the Lord hath chosen him to be a ruler over you, and this because of your iniquities? Behold, thou shalt go up to Jerusalem again, and the Lord will deliver Laban into your hands. And after that the angel had spoken unto us, it departed. And after that the angel had departed, Laman and Lemuel again began to murmur, saying, How is it possible that the Lord will deliver Laban into our hands? Behold, he is a mighty man, and he can command 50, even he can slay 50. Then why not us? And it came to pass that I spake unto my brethren, saying, Let us go up again unto Jerusalem, and let us be faithful in keeping the commandments of the Lord. For behold, he is mightier than all the earth. Then why not mightier than Laban and his 50, yea, or even than his tens of thousands? Therefore let us go up, let us be strong like unto Moses. For he truly spake unto the waters of the Red Sea, and they divided hither and thither. And our fathers came through out of captivity on dry ground, and the armies of Pharaoh did follow, and were drowned in the waters of the Red Sea. Now behold, ye know that this is true, and ye also know that an angel hath spoken unto you, wherefore can ye doubt? Let us go up. The Lord is able to deliver us, even as our fathers, and to destroy Laban, even as the Egyptians. Now when I had spoken these words, they were yet wroth, and did still continue to murmur. Nevertheless, they did follow me up until we came without the walls of Jerusalem. And it was by night, and I caused that they should hide themselves without the walls. And after that they had hid themselves, I, Nephi, crept into the city and went forth towards the house of Laban. And I was led by the Spirit, not knowing beforehand the things which I should do. Nevertheless I went forth, and as I came near unto the house of Laban, I beheld a man, and he had fallen to the earth before me, for he was drunken with wine. And when I came to him, I found that it was Laban. And I beheld his sword, and I drew it forth from the sheath thereof, and the hilt thereof was of pure gold, and the workmanship thereof was exceeding fine, and I saw that the blade thereof was of the most precious steel. And it came to pass that I was constrained by the Spirit, that I should kill Laban. And I said in my heart, Never at any time have I shed the blood of men, and I shrunk and would that I might not slay him. And the Spirit saith unto me again, Behold, the Lord hath delivered him into thy hands. Yea, and I also knew that he had sought to take away mine own life. Yea, and he would not hearken unto the commandments of the Lord. And he also hath taken away our property. And it came to pass that the Spirit said unto me again, Slay him, for the Lord hath delivered him into thy hands. Behold, the Lord slayeth the wicked to bring forth his righteous purposes. It is better that one man should perish, than that a nation should dwindle and perish in unbelief. And now when I, Nephi, hath heard these words, I remembered the words of the Lord, which he spake unto me in the wilderness, saying, That inasmuch as thy seed shall keep my commandments, they shall prosper in the land of promise. Yea, and I also thought that they could not keep the commandments of the Lord according to the law of Moses, save they should have the law. And I also knew that the law was engraven upon the plates of brass. And again, I knew that the Lord had delivered Laban into my hands for this cause, that I might obtain the records according to his commandments. Therefore I did obey the voice of the Spirit, and took Laban by the hair of the head, and I smote off his head with his own sword. And after that I had smitten off his head with his own sword, I took the garments of Laban, and put them upon mine own body, yea, even every whit. And I did gird on his armor about my loins. And after that I had done this, I went forth unto the treasury of Laban. And as I went forth towards the treasury of Laban, behold, I saw the servant of Laban, which had the keys of the treasury. And I commanded him in the voice of Laban, that he should go with me into the treasury. And he supposed me to be his master, Laban, for he beheld the garments, and also the sword girded about my loins. And he spake unto me concerning the elders of the Jews, he knowing that his master Laban had been out by night among them. And I spake unto him as if it had been Laban. And I also spake unto him that I should carry the engravings which were upon the plates of brass to my elder brethren which were without the walls. And I also bade him that he should follow me. And he, supposing that I spake of the brethren of the church, and that I was truly that Laban whom I had slain, wherefore he did follow me. And he spake unto me many times concerning the elders of the Jews, as I went forth unto my brethren which were without the walls. And it came to pass that when Laman saw me, he was exceedingly frightened, and also Lemuel and Sam. And they fled from before my presence, for they supposed it was Laban, and that he had slain me, and had sought to take away their lives also. And it came to pass that I called after them, and they did hear me, wherefore they did cease to flee from my presence. And it came to pass that when the servant of Laban beheld my brethren, he began to tremble, and was about to flee from before me, and return to the city of Jerusalem. And now I, Nephi, being a man large in stature, and also having received much strength of the Lord, therefore I did seize upon the servant of Laban, and held him, that he should not flee. And it came to pass that I spake with him, that if he would hearken unto my words, as the Lord liveth, and as I live, even so that he would hearken unto our words, we would spare his life. And I spake unto him even with an oath, that he need not fear, that he should be a free man like unto us, if he will go down in the wilderness with us. And I also spake unto him, saying, Surely the Lord hath commanded us to do this thing, and shall we not be diligent in keeping the commandments of the Lord? Therefore, if thou wilt go down into the wilderness to my father, thou shalt have place with us. And it came to pass that Zoram did take courage at the words which I speak. Now Zoram was the name of the servant. And he promised that he would go down into the wilderness unto our father. And he also made an oath unto us, that he would tarry with us from that time forth. Now we were desirous that he should tarry with us for this cause, that the Jews might not know concerning our flight into the wilderness, lest they should pursue us and destroy us. And it came to pass that when Zoram had made an oath unto us, our fears did cease concerning him. And it came to pass that we took the plates of brass and the servant of Laban, and departed into the wilderness, and journeyed unto the tent of our father. And it came to pass that after we had came down into the wilderness unto our father, behold, he was filled with joy, and also my mother Sariah was exceeding glad, for she truly had mourned because of us, for she had supposed that we had perished in the wilderness. And she also had complained against my father, telling him that he was a visionary man, saying, Behold, thou hast led us forth from the land of our inheritance, and my sons are no more, and we perish in the wilderness. And after this manner of language had my mother complained against my father. And it had came to pass that my father spake unto her, saying, I know that I am a visionary man. For if I had not seen the things of God in a vision, I should not have known the goodness of God, but had tarried at Jerusalem, and had perished with my brethren. But behold, I have obtained the land of promise, in the which thing I do rejoice. And I know that the Lord will deliver my sons out of the hands of Laban, and bring them down again unto us in the wilderness. And after this manner of language did my father Lehi come from my mother Sariah concerning us, while we journeyed in the wilderness up to the land of Jerusalem to obtain the record of the Jews. And when we had returned to the tent of my father, behold, their joy was full, and my mother was comforted. And she spake, saying, Now I know of a surety that the Lord hath commanded my husband to flee into the wilderness. Yea, and I also know of a surety that the Lord hath protected my sons and delivered them out of the hands of Laban, and gave them power whereby they could accomplish the things. Yea, and I also know of a surety that the Lord hath protected my sons and delivered them out of the hands of Laban, and gave them power whereby they could accomplish the thing which the Lord hath commanded them. And after this manner of language did she speak. Alright, should I do a little more? Alright, yeah, I'll finish the chapter. And it came to pass that they did rejoice exceedingly, and did offer sacrifice and burnt offerings unto the Lord. And they gave thanks unto the God of Israel. And after that they had given thanks unto the God of Israel, my father Lehi took the records which were engraven upon the plates of brass, and he did search them from the beginning. And he beheld that they did contain the 5 books of Moses, which gave an account of the creation of the world, and also of Adam and Eve, which was our first parents, and also a record of the Jews from the beginning even down to the commencement of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, and also the prophecies of the holy prophets from the beginning even down to the commencement of the reign of Zedekiah, and also many prophecies which have been spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah. And it came to pass that my father Lehi also found upon the plates of brass a genealogy of his fathers, wherefore he knew that he was a descendant of Joseph, even that Joseph which was a son of Jacob, which was sold into Egypt, and which was preserved by the hand of the Lord, that he might preserve his father Jacob and all his household from perishing with famine. And they were also led out of captivity and out of the land of Egypt by that same God who had preserved them. And thus my father Lehi did discover the genealogy of his fathers. And Laban also was a descendant of Joseph, wherefore he and his brothers had kept the records. And now, when my father saw all these things, he was filled with the Spirit, and began to prophesy concerning his seed, that these plates of brass should go forth unto all nations, kindreds, tongues, and people, which were of his seed. Wherefore he said that these plates of brass should never perish, neither should they be dimmed any more by time. And he prophesied many things concerning his seed. And it came to pass that thus far I and my father had kept the commandments wherewith the Lord had commanded us, and we had obtained the record which the Lord had commanded us, and searched them, and found that they were desirable, even of great worth unto us, insomuch that we could preserve the commandments of the Lord unto our children. Wherefore it was wisdom in the Lord that we should carry them with us as we journeyed in the wilderness towards the land of promise. A little break. I'm gonna get something to drink. Okay, so now I'm gonna read the Quran. It's the first time reading the Quran online. Yeah, if it's a religious book, I'll read it at least once. I'll read it here if you give it to me. It's fun. Nothing else is fun. What else is fun? Nothing else is fun. Okay. Sorry, I just made it. So it looks kind of funny. Hmm. My keyboard's not working. What's going on here? Okay, got it. Okay, here we go. And this is what Rumi's contribution. So this is like writing Rumi, and then it goes into chapter 1. But there's the introduction by Rumi is really long. Huh? How do I want to do this? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is read the introduction. There's different sections. Okay, Surah 1 is really short, so that's what I'm gonna do. Here we go. Introduction. Namaste. Glory to God Most High, full of grace and mercy. He created all, including man. To man he gave a special place in his creation. He honored man to be his agent, and to that end endued him with understanding, purified his affections, and gave him spiritual insight, so that man should understand nature, understand himself, and know God through his wondrous signs, and glorify him in truth, reverence, and unity. For the fulfillment of this great trust, man was further given a will, so that his act should reflect God's universal will and law, and his mind freely choosing should experience the sublime joy of being in harmony with the infinite, and with the great drama of the world around him, and with his own spiritual growth. But created though he was in the best of molds, man fell from unity when his will was warped, and he chose the crooked path of discord, and sorrow and pain, selfishness and degradation, ignorance and hatred, despair and unbelief, poisoned his life and he saw shapes of evil in the physical, moral, and spiritual world, and in himself. Then did his soul rise against himself, and his self-discord made discord between kith and kin. Men began to fear the strong and oppress the weak, to boast in prosperity and curse in adversity, and to flee each other, pursuing phantoms, but the truth and reality of unity was gone from their minds. You know what? I'm gonna the Quran with Rumi. Okay. Then did his soul rise against himself, and his self-discord made discord between kith and kin. Men began to fear the strong and oppress the weak, to boast in prosperity and curse in adversity, and to flee each other, pursuing phantoms, for the truth and reality of unity was gone from their minds. When men spread themselves over the earth and became many nations, speaking diverse languages and observing diverse customs and laws, the evils became multiplied as one race or nation became alienated from another. The brotherhood of man was now doubly forgotten, first between individuals and secondly between nations. Arrogance, selfishness, and untruth were sown and reaped in larger fields, and peace, faith, love, and justice were obscured over masses of men, as large tracts of land are starved of sunshine by clouds floating far on high. But God, in His infinite mercy and love, who forgives and guides individuals and nations and turns to good even what seems to us evil, never forsakes the struggling soul that turns to Him. Neither groups of men and women who join together to obey His will and law and strengthen each other in unity and truth, nor the nations that dwell in mountain or valley, heat or cold, in regions fertile or arid, in societies that roam over land or seas, or hunt or tend flocks, or till the soil, or seek the seas for food or oil or fat or gems, or dig out from the bowels of the earth precious stones or metals, or stored up heat and energy, or practice arts and crafts, or produce abundant wealth by machines of ingenious workmanship, or live a frugal life of contemplation, for all are children of one God, and share His loving care, and must be brought within the pale of His eternal unity and harmony. And so this light of eternal unity has shone in all ages and among all nations through chosen apostles of God, who came as men to dwell among men, to share their joys and sorrows, to suffer for them and with them, aye, and to suffer more than falls to ordinary mortal lot, that so their message and their life might fulfill the eternal and unchanging purpose of the Most High, to lead man to his noblest destiny. Ever this eternal light of unity, this mystic light of God's own will, has shone and shines with undiminished splendor. The names of many messengers are inscribed in the records of many nations and many tongues, and many were the forms in which their message was delivered, according to the needs of the times and the understanding of the people, and manifold were the lives of the messengers, and manifold also was the response of their people. And they all witnessed to the one truth of God's unity, might, grace, and love. As the records of men are imperfect, and the memory of men unstable, the names of many of these messengers are known in one place and not in another, or among one people and not among others, and some of their names may have perished early, but their message stands one and indivisible, even though it may have been forgotten, or twisted by ignorance, error, superstition, or perversity, or misunderstood in the blinding light of time, or tortuous circumstance. Many were the fates in the composite world of Western Asia, Northern Africa, and Europe, and many were the fragments of ancient wisdom saved, transformed, renewed, or mingled, and many new streams of wisdom were poured through the crucibles of noble minds, prophets, poets, preachers, philosophers, and thinking men of action, and many were the conflicts and many the noble attempts reaching out towards unity, and many were the subtle influences interchanged with the other worlds of further and eastern Asia, aye, and perchance with the scattered isles of the Pacific and the world between the Atlantic and the Pacific. At length came the time when the voice of unity should speak and declare to the people, without the need of priests or priestcraft, without miracles save those that happen now and always in the spiritual world, without mystery save those mysteries which unfold themselves in the growing inner experience of man and his vision of God. To declare with unfaltering voice to declare with unfaltering voice the unity of God, the brotherhood of men, and grace and mercy, bounty and love, poured out in unstinted measure forever and ever. And this great healing light shone among a people steeped in ignorance, brave and free, but without cohesion or union, simple and rude, but with an easy familiarity with nature, accustomed to nature's hardships and her rugged resistance to man, but dreaming of the delights of gardens and fruitful fields, cruel yet with a rough sense of equality, and wielding a tongue flexible, beautiful, and able to respond with brevity and eloquence to the sublimest thoughts which men could conceive. Who were fit to be vehicles of this light? Not men intoxicated with words and mysteries, men whom politics had debauched, or tyranny had subdued, men whose refinement had ended in vices, who saw nature only through books or artificial conceits, or in moods which bred softness, indolence, or luxury, who spoke of love and justice, but practiced gross selfishness between class and class, sex and sex, condition and condition, and had perverted their language, once beautiful, into jargons of empty elegance and unmeaning futility. For the glory of Hellas and her freedom and wisdom had departed, Rome's great systems of law, organization, and universal citizenship had sunk into the mire of ecclesiastical formalism and dogmatism and exclusive arrogance. The living fire of Persia's prophet scarce smoldered in her votaries of luxury. In India, countless castes and kingdoms canceled the unity of Buddha's teaching. The wounds of China had not yet been healed by Tang culture, and Japan was still a disciple of China. Then, in the sacred city of pagan Arabia, shone a light that spread in all directions. It was centrally placed for the bounds of the world, of men's habitations in Asia, Europe, and Africa. It made the Arabs the leading nation of culture and science, of organized enterprise, law, and arts, with a zeal for the conquest of nature and her mysteries. Behold, there was born into the world of sense the unlettered apostle, the comely child, noble of birth, but nobler still, in the grace and wisdom of human love and human understanding, dowered with the key which opened to him the enchanted palace of nature, marked out to receive and preach in burning words the spiritual truth and message of the Most High. Others before him have been born in darkness beyond the reach of history. Others again it pleased God to send as messengers, preaching, working in the dim twilight of history, wherein men fashion legends after their own hearts and dimly seek a light afar, remote from the lives mean and sordid, such as they knew. But Muhammad came in the fullest blaze of history, with no learning he put to shame, the wisdom of the learned. With pasture folk he lived and worked, and won their love. In hills and valleys, caves and deserts, he wandered, but never lost his way to truth and righteousness. From his pure and spotless heart, the angels washed off the dust that flew around him. Through the ways of crooked city folk, he walked upright and straight, and won from them the ungrudging name of the man of faith who never broke his word. To the praiseworthy indeed be praise. Born in the sacred city, he destroyed its superstition. Loyal to his people to the core, he stood for all humanity. Orphan born and poor, he envied not the rich, and made his special care all those whom the world neglected or oppressed. Orphans, women, slaves, and those in need of food or comforts, mental solace, spiritual strength, or virtues downtrodden in the haunts of men. His mother and his foster mother loved and wondered at the child. His grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, of all his twice 8 children and their offspring, loved him best in all his sweet and gentle ways. His uncle Abu Talib, loth though he was to give up the cult of his fathers, knew well the purity of Muhammad's mind and soul, and was his stoutest champion when the other chiefs of Mecca sought to kill the man who challenged in his person their narrow pagan selfish lives. To his cousin Ali, the well-beloved, born when he was 30, he appeared as the very pattern of a perfect man, as gentle as he was wise and true and strong, the one in whose defense and aid he spent his utmost strength and skill, holding life cheap in support of a cause so high, and placing without reserve his chivalry, his prowess, his wit and learning, and his sword at the service of this mighty messenger of God. Not till the age of 40 did he receive the commission to stand forth and proclaim the bounty of God, and his gift to lowly men, of knowledge by word and pen. But all through his years of preparation, he did search the truth. He sought it in nature's forms and laws, her beauty and her stern, unflinching ways. He sought it in the inner world of human lives, of men's joys and sorrows, their kindly virtues and their sins. Of pride, injustice, cruel wrong, and greed of gain, scarce checked by the inner voice that spoke of duty, moral law, and higher still, the will supreme of God, to which the will of man must tune itself to find its highest bliss. But he grew steadfastly in virtue and purity. Untaught by men, he learned from them and learned to teach them. Even as a boy of 9, when he went in a trade caravan with Abu Talib to Syria, his tender soul marked inwardly how God did speak in the wide expanse of deserts, in the stern grandeur of rocks, in the refreshing flow of streams, in the smiling bloom of gardens, in the art and skill with which men and birds and all life sought for light from the life of lives, even as every plant seeks through devious ways the light of the sun. Nor less was he grieved at man's ingratitude when he rebelled and held as naught the signs of God, and turned his gifts of baser uses, driving rarer souls to hermit life, clouding the heavenly mirror of pure affections with selfish passions, mad unseemly wrangles. With selfish passions, mad unseemly wrangles, and heart unhallowed loathsome tortures of themselves. He worked and enjoyed in honest labor. He traded with integrity to himself and to others. He joined the throngs of cities and their busy life, but saw its good and evil as types of an inner and more lasting life hereafter. People gladly sought his help as umpire and peacemaker because they knew his soul was just and righteous. He loved the society of old and young, but oft withdrew to solitude for prayer and inward spiritual strength. He despised not wealth, but used it for others. He was happy in poverty, and used it as his badge and his pride when wealth was within his reach, but not within his grasp, as a man among men. At 25, was united in the holy bonds of wedlock with Khadijah the Great, the noble lady who befriended him when he had no worldly resources, trusted him when his worth was little known, encouraged and understood him in his spiritual struggles, believed in him when, with trembling steps, he took up the call and withstood obloquy, persecution, insults, threats, and tortures, and was a lifelong helpmate till she was gathered to the saints of his 51st year. And was a lifelong helpmate till she was gathered to the saints in his 51st year, a perfect woman, the mother of those that believe. There is a cave in the side of Mount Hira, some 3 miles north of the city of Mecca, in a valley which turns left from the road to Arafat, to which Muhammad used to retire for peaceful contemplation, often alone, but sometimes with Khadijah. Days and nights he spent there with his Lord. Hard were the problems he revolved in his mind, harder and more cross-grained than the red granite of the rock around him. Problems not his own, but his people's, and of human destiny, of the mercy of God, and the age-long conflict of evil and righteousness, sin and abounding grace. Not till 40 years of earthly life had passed, that the veil was lifted from the preserved tablet, and its contents began to be transferred to the tablet of his mind, to be proclaimed to the world, and read and studied for all time, a fountain of mercy and wisdom, a warning to the heedless, a guide to the erring, an assurance to those in doubt, a solace to the suffering, a hope to those in despair, to complete the chain of revelation through the mouths of divinely inspired apostles. Divinely inspired apostles. The chosen one was in the cave of Hira. For 2 years and more he had prayed there, and adored his Creator, and wondered at the mystery of man, with his corruptible flesh just growing out of a clot, and the soul in him reaching out to knowledge sublime, no one ever knew, taught by the bounty of God, and leading to that which man himself knoweth not. And now, behold, a dazzling vision of beauty and light overpowered his senses, and he heard the word Ikra. Ikra, which being interpreted may mean read, or proclaim, or recite. The unlettered apostle was puzzled. He could not read. The angel seemed to press him in his breast in a close embrace, and the cry rang clear, Ikra. And so it happened 3 times, until the first overpowering sensation yielded to a collected grasp of the words which made clear his mission. Its author, God, the Creator, its subject, man, God's wondrous handiwork, capable by grace of rising to heights sublime, and the instrument of that mission, the sanctified pen, and the sanctified book, the gift of God, which men might read or write or study or treasure in their souls. The veil was lifted from the chosen one's eyes, and his soul for a moment was filled with divine ecstasy. When this passed, and he returned to the world of time and circumstance and this world of sense, he felt like one whose eyes had seen a light of dazzling beauty, and felt dazed on his return to common sights. The darkness now seemed tenfold dark. The solitude seemed tenfold empty. The Mount of Hira, henceforth known as the Mountain of Light, the mere shell of an intense memory. Was it a dream? Terror seized his limbs, and he straightway sought her who shared his inmost life, and told her of his sense of exaltation, in the awful void when the curtain closed. She understood, rejoiced, and comforted him, gave strength to his shaken senses, wrapped up in warmth his shivering body, unused as yet to bear the strain and stress of an experience rare to mortal men. She knew it was no dream or delusion. She went and consulted her cousin Waraka, a devout worshipper of God in the faith of Christ, learned in spiritual lore. He listened and with her rejoiced that he, Muhammad, was God's chosen one to renew the faith. She said, "Blessed be thou, chosen one. Do we not see thy inner life true and pure? Do not all see thy outer life kind and gentle? Loyal to kin, hospitable to strangers. No thought of harm or mischief ever stained thy mind, nor word ever passed thy lips that was not true, or stilled not the passions of narrower men. Ever ready in the service of God, thou art he of whom I bear witness. There is no God but he, and thou art his chosen apostle." Khadijah believed, exalted in faith above all women. Ali, the well-beloved, then a child of 10, but lion-hearted, plighted his faith, and became from that moment the right hand of Islam. Abu Bakr, the sincere, the true-hearted, the man of wealth and influence, who used both without stint for the cause, the sober counselor, the inseparable friend, never hesitated to declare his faith. And Zaid, the freed man of Muhammad, counted his freedom as not compared with the service of Muhammad and Islam. These were the first fruits of the mission, a woman, a child, a man of affairs, and a freedman, all banded together in the equality of Islam. The revelation had come, the mission and the inspiration. But what was it leading to? It was a miracle, but not in the sense, It was a miracle, but not in the sense of a reversing of nature. Burshutafana's vision was linked with eternity, but he was no soothsayer foretelling passing events. The mysteries of knowledge were being opened out, but his message was no mere esoteric doctrine to be grasped by a few in contemplation fleeing from action. Nor was it the practice of singular social monasticism, undisturbed by the whims or passions of life. He was asked to stand forth to preach, to declare the one universal God, the gracious, the merciful, and to lead men to the right and forbid the wrong. The wrong? The selfish pride of birth, the massing of power and wealth in the hands of a few, the slaughter of female infants, the orgies of gambling and drunkenness, the frauds of temples and idols and priests, the views and arrogance of tribes and races, the separation of sacred and profane, as if the unity of all life and all truth did not flow from the unity of God Most High. He was loyal to his family, but could he support their monopoly of power? To his tribe, but were the Quraysh the only creatures of God? To the temple of Mecca, but could he wink at Lot and Uzza and the other monsters, whose worship killed the spiritual growth of man? To the earlier revelations, but could he hold with the superstitions and falsehoods, the dogmas and creeds which went against reason and nature, and the inner light which was now fanned into flame by the will of God? And so his very virtues and loyalties pointed to offense and conflict, mockery and misrepresentation, hatred and persecution, threats, tortures, and exile for him and his, and martyrdoms, wars, revolutions, and the shaking of the foundations of history and the social order. But Islam meant the willing submission of his will to God, the active attainment of peace through conflict. And he gave that submission not without effort, even as Moses did before him, and Jesus in the agony of the Garden of Gethsemane. For 23 years in patience, conflict, hope, and final triumph did this man of God receive and teach the message of the Most High. It came like the food of the soul's own yearning to teach profound spiritual truths, answer questions, appeal to men in their doubts and fears, help them put heart in them in moments of trial, and ordain for them laws by which they could live in society lives of purity, goodness, and peace. These messages came as inspiration to Muhammad, as the need arose on different occasions and in different places. He recited them, and they were recorded by the pen. They were imprinted on his heart and mind and on the memory of his loving disciples. As the body of sacred scripture grew, it was arranged for purposes of public prayer and reading. This is the book, or the reading, or the Quran. Introduction to Surah 1. Fatiha. First comes that beautiful surah, the opening chapter of 7 verses, rightly called the essence of the book. It teaches us the perfect prayer. For if we can pray aright, it means that we have some knowledge of God and His attributes, of His relations to us and His creation, which includes ourselves, that we glimpse the source from which we come, and the final goal, which is our spiritual destiny under God's true judgment. Then we offer ourselves to God and seek His light. Prayer is the heart of religion and faith, but how shall we pray? What words shall convey the yearnings of our miserable, ignorant hearts to the knower of all? Is it worthy of Him or of our spiritual nature to ask for vanities, or even for such physical needs as our daily bread? The inspired one taught us a prayer that sums up our faith, our hope, and our aspiration in things that matter. We think in devotion of God's name and His nature. We praise Him for His creation and His cherishing care. We call to mind the realities seen and unseen. We offer Him worship and ask for His guidance. And we know the straight from the crooked path by the light of His grace that illumines the righteous. Surah 1. Fatiha, or the opening chapter. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to God, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. Most gracious, most merciful. Master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose is not wrath, and who go not astray. Okay, that's it with the Quran. I'm getting shorter, as usual. A foot shorter right now. How do I want it? Okay. Still short. Alright, next up is the New Testament. Let me just fix that here. Alright, so now I know where I am next time. Next, chapter 11. Fix that. The emissaries and the brothers throughout Yehuda heard that the Goyim had received the word of God. But when Kepha went up to Yerushalayim, the member of the circumcision faction criticized him, saying, "He went into the homes of uncircumcised men and even ate with them." In reply, Kepha began explaining in detail what had actually happened. "I was in the city of Yaffo praying, and in a trance I had a vision. I saw something like a large sheet being lowered by its four corners from heaven, and it came down to me. I looked inside and saw four-footed animals, beasts of prey, crawling creatures, and wild birds. Then I heard a voice telling me, 'Get up, Kepha, slaughter and eat.' I said, 'No, sir, absolutely not. Nothing unclean or treif has ever entered my mouth.' But the voice spoke again from heaven, 'Stop treating as unclean what God has made clean.' This happened 3 times, and then everything was pulled back up into heaven. At that very moment, 3 men who had been sent to me from Caesarea arrived at the house where I was staying, and the Spirit told me to have no misgivings about going back with them. These 6 brothers also came with me, and we went into the man's house. He told us how he had seen the angel standing in his house and saying, 'Send to Yaffo and bring Bet Shimeon, known as Kepha. He has a message for you which will enable you and your whole household to be saved.' But I had hardly begun speaking when the Ruach HaKodesh fell on them, just as on us at the beginning. And I remembered that the Lord had said, 'Yochanan used to immerse people in water, but you will be immersed in the Ruach HaKodesh.' Therefore, if God gave them the same gift as He gave us after we had come to put our trust in the Lord Yah-Usha the Messiah, who was I to stand in God's way?" On hearing these things, they stopped objecting and began to praise God, saying, "This means that God has enabled the Goyim as well to do teshuvah and have life." Now those who had been scattered because of the persecution which had arisen over Stephen went as far as Phoenicia, Cyprus, and Antioch. They spoke God's word, but only to Jews. However, some of these, men from Cyrus and Cyrene, when they arrived at Antioch, began speaking to the Greeks too, proclaiming the good news of the Lord Yah-Usha. The hand of the Lord was with them, and a great number of people trusted and turned to the Lord. News of this reached the ears of the Messianic community in Jerusalem, and they sent Barnabas to Antioch. On arriving and seeing for himself the grace of God at work, he was glad, and he encouraged them all to remain true to the Lord with their whole hearts, for he was a good man, full of the Ruach HaKodesh and trust. Then Barnabas went off to Tarsus to look for Shaul, and when he found him, he brought him to Antioch. They met with the congregation there for a whole year and taught a sizable crowd. Also, it was in Antioch that the Talmidim for the first time were called Messianic. During this time, some prophets came down from Jerusalem to Antioch, and one of them, named Agab, stood up and through the Spirit predicted that there was going to be a severe famine throughout the Roman Empire. It took place while Claudius was emperor. So the Talmidim decided to provide relief to the brothers living in Yehuda, each according to his means, and they did it, sending their contribution to the elders in the care of Barnabas and Shaul. Chapter 12. It was around this time that King Herod began arresting and persecuting certain members of the Messianic community, and he had Yaakov, Yochanan's brother, put to death by the sword. When Herod saw how much this pleased the Judeans, he went on to arrest Kepha as well. It was during the days of Matzah, so when Herod seized him, he threw him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each, with the intention of bringing him to public trial after Pesach. So Kepha was being held under watch in prison, but intense prayer was being made to God on his behalf by the Messianic community. The night before Herod was going to bring him to trial, Kepha was sleeping between 2 soldiers. He was bound with 2 chains, and guards were at the door keeping watch over the prison. Suddenly, an angel of Yahweh stood there, and a light shone in the cell. He tapped Kepha's side and woke him. "Hurry, get up," he said. and the chains fell off his hands. The angel said to him, "Put on your coats and sandals." And he did. "Throw on your robe," he said, "and follow me." Going out, Kepha followed him, but did not realize that what was happening through the angel was real. He thought he was seeing a vision. Having passed a first guard and a second, they arrived at the iron gate leading to the city. This opened to them by itself, and they made their exit. They went down the length of one street, and suddenly the angel left him. Then Kepha came to himself and said, "Now I know for sure that the Lord sent his angel to rescue me from Herod's power and from everything the Judean people were hoping for." Well, realizing what had happened, he went to the house of Miriam, the mother of Yochanan, where many people had gathered to pray. He knocked at the outside door, and a servant named Rhoda came to answer. She recognized Kepha's voice and was so happy that she ran back in without opening the door and announced that Kepha was standing outside. "You're out of your mind," they said to her, but she insisted it was true. So they said, "It is his angel." Meanwhile, Kepha kept knocking, and when they opened the door and saw him, they were amazed. Motioning to them with his hand to be quiet, he told them how the Lord had brought him out of the prison and said, "Tell all this to Yaakov and the brothers." Then he left them on elsewhere. When daylight came, there was no small commotion among the soldiers over what had become of Kepha. Herod had a thorough search made for him, but they failed to find him, so he cross-examined the guards and ordered them to sorry. Herod had a thorough search made for him, but they failed to find him, so he cross-examined the guards and ordered them put to death. Then Herod went down from Yehuda to Caesarea and spent some time there. Now Herod was very angry with the people of Jor and Sidon, so they joined together and sought an audience with him. After securing the support of Blastus, the king's chief personal servant, they asked for peace, because they depended on the king's lands for their food supply. A day was set, and Herod, in his royal robes, sat on the throne and made a speech to them. The mob cried out, "This is the voice of a god, not a man." At once, because Herod did not give the glory to God, an angel of Yahweh struck him down. He was eaten away by worms and died. But the word of the Lord went on growing and being multiplied. Barnabas and Shaul, having completed their errand, returned from Jerusalem, bringing with them Yochanan, surnamed Mark. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. Reading a little less today. I read like half an hour of Rumi's commentary. Okay, now Genesis 30. Genesis chapter 30. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing children for Yaakov, she envied her sister and said to Yaakov, "Give me children or I will die." This made Yaakov angry at Rachel. He answered, "Am I in God's place? He is the one who is denying you children." She said, "Here is my maid Bilhah. Go sleep with her, and let her give birth to a child that will be laid on my knees, so that through her I too can build a family. So she gave him Bilhah, her slave girl, as his wife, and Yaakov went in and slept with her. Bilhah conceived and bore Yaakov a son. Rachel said, God has judged in my favor. Indeed, he has heard me and given me a son. Therefore she called him Dan. Bilhah, Rachel's slave girl, conceived again and bore Yaakov a second son. Rachel said, I have wrestled mightily with my sister and won, and called him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she took Zilpah, her slave girl, and gave her to Yaakov as his wife. Zilpah, Leah's slave girl, bore Yaakov a son, and Leah said, Good fortune has come, calling him Gad. Zilpah, Leah's slave girl, bore Yaakov a second son, and Leah said, How happy I am! Women will say, I am happy, and called her Asher. During the wheat harvest season, Reuben went and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel said to Leah, Please give me some of your son's mandrakes. She answered, Isn't it enough that you have taken away my husband? Do you have to take my son's mandrakes too? Rachel said, Very well, in exchange for your son's mandrakes, sleep with him tonight. When Yaakov came in from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, You have to come and sleep with me because I've hired you with my son's mandrakes. So Yaakov slept with her that night. God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Yaakov a fifth son. Leah said, God has given me my hire because I gave my slave girl to my husband. So she called him Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Yaakov. Leah said, God has given me a wonderful gift. Now at last my husband will live with me, since I have borne him 6 sons. And she called him Zebulun. After this she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God took note of Rachel, heeded her prayer, and made her fertile. She conceived, had a son, and said, God has taken away my disgrace. She called him Joseph, saying, May Yahweh add to me another son. After Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Yaakov said to Laban, Send me on my way, so that I can return to my own place, to my own country. Let me take my wives for whom I have served you, and my children, and let me go. You know very well how faithfully I have served you. Laban answered him, If you regard me favorably, then please listen. I have observed the signs that Yahweh has blessed me on account of you. Name your wages, he said, I will pay them. Yaakov replied, You know how faithfully I have served you, and how your livestock have prospered under my care. The few you had before I came have increased substantially. Yahweh has blessed you wherever I went. But now, when will I provide for my own household? Laban said, What should I give you? Nothing, answered Yaakov. Just do this one thing for me. Once more, I will pasture your flock and take care of it. I will also go through the flock and pick out every speckled, spotted, or brown sheep, and every speckled or spotted goat. These and their offspring will be my wages, and I will let my integrity stand as witness against me in the future. When you come to look over the animals constituting my wages, every goat that isn't speckled or spotted, and every sheep that isn't brown will count as stolen by me. Laban replied, As you have said, so be it. That day Laban removed the male goats that were streaked or spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled or spotted, every one with white on it, and all the brown sheep, turned them over to his sons, and put 3 days' distance between himself and Yaakov. Yaakov fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Yaakov took fresh-cut branches from poplar, almond, and plane trees and made white streaks on them by peeling off the bark. Then he set the rods he had peeled upright in the watering troughs, so that the animals would see them when they came to drink. And since they bred when they came to drink, the animals made it inside of the rods and gave birth to streaked, speckled, and spotted young. Yaakov divided the lambs and had the animals mate with the streaked and the brown in the flock of Laban. He also kept his own livestock separate and did not have them mixed with Laban's flock. Whenever the Whenever the hardier animals came to heat, Yaakov would set up the rods in the watering troughs, so that the animals would see them and conceive in front of them. But he didn't set up the rods in front of the weaker animals, thus the more feeble were Laban's, and the stronger Yaakov's. In this way the men became very rich and had large flocks along with male and female slaves, camels, and donkeys. Alright, final chapter, last chapter. Chapter 31. But then he heard what Laban's sons were saying. Yaakov has taken away everything that our father once had. It's from what used to belong to our father that he has gotten so rich. He also saw that Laban regarded him differently than before. Yahweh said to Yaakov, "Return to the land of your ancestors, to your kinsmen. I will be with you." So Yaakov sent for Rachel and Leah and had them come to the field where his flock was. He said to them, "I see by the way your father looks that he feels differently toward me than before. But the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, and that your father has belittled me and has changed my wages 10 times. But God did not allow him to do more. But God did not allow him to do me any damage. If he said, 'The speckled will be your wages,' then all the animals gave birth to speckled young. And if he said, 'The streaked will be your wages,' then all the animals gave birth to a streaked young. This is how God has taken away your father's animals and given them to me. Once when the animals were mating, I had a dream. I looked up, and there in front of me, the male goats which mated with the females were streaked, speckled, and mottled. Then in the dream, the angel of God said to me, 'Yaakov,' and I replied, 'Here I am.' He continued, 'Raise your eyes now and look. All the male goats mating with the females are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen everything Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a standing stone with oil, where you vowed your vow to me. Now get up, get out of this land, and return to the land where you were born.' Rachel and Leah answered him, 'We no longer have any inheritance from our father's possessions, and he considers us foreigners, since he has sold us. Moreover, he has consumed everything he received in exchange for us. Nevertheless, the wealth which God has taken away from our father has become ours and our children's anyway. So whatever God has told you to do, do.' Then Yaakov got up, put his sons and wives on the camels, and carried off all his livestock, along with all the riches he had accumulated, the livestock in his possession which he had acquired in Padan Aram, to go to Yitzchak his father in the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, so Rachel stole the household idols that belonged to her father, and Yaakov outwitted Laban the Aramean by not telling him of his intended flight. So he fled with everything he had. He departed, crossed the river, and set out for the hill country of Gilead. Not until the 3rd day was Laban told that Yaakov had fled. Laban took his kinsman with him and spent the next 7 days pursuing Yaakov, overtaking him in the hill country of Gilead. But God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream that night and said to him, 'Be careful that you don't say anything to Yaakov, either good or bad.' When Laban caught up with Yaakov, Yaakov had set up camp in the hill country. So Laban and his kinsmen set up camp in the hill country of Gilead. Laban said to Yaakov, 'What do you mean by deceiving me and carrying off my daughters as if they were captives taken in war? Why did you flee in secret and deceive me and not tell me? I would have sent you off with joy and singing to the music of tambourines and lyres. You didn't even let me kiss my sons and daughters goodbye. What a stupid thing to do. I have it in my power to do you harm, but God of your father spoke to me last night and said, 'Be careful that you don't say anything to Yaakov, either good or bad.' Granted that you had to leave, because you longed so deeply for your father's house, but why did you steal my gods?" Yaakov answered Laban, Because I was afraid, I said, suppose you take your daughters away from me by force. But if you find your gods with someone, that person will not remain alive. So with our kinsman to witness, if you spot anything that I have which belongs to you, take it back. Yaakov did not know that Rachel had stolen them. Laban went into Yaakov's tent, then into Leah's tent, into the tent of the two slave girls, but he did not find them. He left Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household gods, put them in the saddle of the camel, and was sitting on them. Laban felt all around the tent, but did not find them. She said to her father, "Please don't be angry that I'm not getting up in your presence, but it's the time of my period." So he searched, but he didn't find the household gods. Then Yaakov became angry and started arguing with Laban. "What have I done wrong?" he demanded. "What is my offense, that you have come after me in hot pursuit? You have felt around in all my stuff, but what have you found of all your household goods? Put it here in front of my kinsmen and yours, so that they can render judgment between the two of us. I have been with you for these 20 years. Your female sheep and goats haven't aborted their young, and I haven't eaten the male animals in your flocks. If one of your flock was destroyed by a wild animal, I didn't bring the carcass to you, but bore the loss myself. You demanded that I compensate you for any animal stolen, whether by day or by night. Here's how it was for me. During the day thirst consumed me, and at night the cold. My sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I've been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flock, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, the one whom Yitzchak fears, had not been on my side, by now you would certainly have already sent me away with nothing. God has seen how distressed I've been and how hard I've worked, and last night he passed judgment in my favor." Laban answered Yaakov, "The daughters are mine, the children are mine, the flocks are mine, and everything you see is mine. But what can I do today about these daughters of mine or the children they have borne? So now come, let's make a covenant, I and you, and let it stand as a testimony between me and you." Yaakov took a stone and set it upright as a standing stone. Then Yaakov said to his kinsmen, "Gather some stones." And they took stones, made a pile of them, and ate there by the pile of stones. Laban called it Yegal Sa'aduta, pile of witness, while Yaakov called it Gal Ed, pile of witness, in Hebrew and Aramaic and Hebrew. Laban said, "This pile witnesses between me and you today. This is why it is called Galiad and also Ha-Mitzpah, because he said, 'May Yahweh watch between me and you when we are apart from each other. If you cause pain to my daughters, or if you take wives in addition to my daughters, then even if no one is there with us, still God is witness between me and you.'" Laban also said to Yaakov, "Here is this pile, and here is this standing stone, which I have set up between me and you. May this pile be a witness, and may the standing stone be a witness, that I will not pass beyond this pile to you, and you will not pass beyond this pile and this standing stone to me to cause harm. May the God of Abraham and also the God of Nachor, the God of their father, judge between us." But Yaakov swore by the one his father Yitzchak feared. Yaakov offered the sacrifice on the mountain and invited his kinsmen to the meal. They ate the food and spent the whole night on the mountain. Okay, that's it. But a little more than I wanted to. I don't want to read more than an hour. But okay, thank you very much. ASMR in about an hour, I guess. Wait, let me fix this. Okay, thank you. Namaste. I'm tired.